Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is an important discussion on the climate change future of snow sports. I'm Dave Tragathon. I'm the chair of the Environment Committee for the Far West Ski Association. I'm honored to kick off what will be the first in a series of conversations about this issue. Now, as passionate skiers and snowboarders, we've all witnessed changes in our winter landscapes, warmer temperatures, inconsistent snowfall, shifting seasons. These aren't just anomalies, they are signs of a changing climate. And that change is not just something we read about, it's something we experience every time we hit the slopes. So we did a little survey of our Far West Ski Association board, and I believe there might have been some others that have taken the survey as well. Just how do we feel about climate change? And most everybody that's on the board and a lot of the membership of Far West Ski Association has had a long enough skiing history to be able to observe some of the changes that we're talking about. Been doing it for, in some cases, decades, and in some cases, eons, in fact, right, Steve? Yeah. So, but here's what the Far West Ski Association board, vast majority, over 70%, are very concerned about climate change. And almost everybody agrees that it poses a major threat to the future of snow sports. Most believe that climate policies can have a positive impact, though some are skeptical about how much small-scale efforts can truly achieve. This tells us that we need both individual and industry-wide action. And the Far West Ski Association members overwhelmingly support ski industry engagement on sustainability. That's good to hear, huh, Nate? Huh, Courtney? And many believe the industry has a responsibility to act, and that organizations like Far West Ski Association should help raise awareness and promote solutions. And there's interest in learning, and action is high. So many respondents want to learn more about ski area sustainability efforts and participate in environmental volunteer initiatives. So that's what we are beginning to do here today with a series of future of snow sports and how we address climate change. Why this meeting matters? Well, I think we've already addressed that, and want to thank everybody for having enough curiosity, or perhaps it's passion, or perhaps it's just what can I do to pitch in for becoming a little more educated about this tonight. Courtney Labrie is the Director of Sustainability for the National Skiers Association. She'll share insights on industry-wide sustainability initiatives, including the NSAA Climate Change or Challenge and the commitment of ski areas to reducing emissions. And Nate Collins, who I had a chance to interview a few months ago, I was just totally impressed with what Bogus Basin, a nonprofit ski area on the small size, is doing up in Idaho. Nate is the Sustainability and Stewardship Coordinator, and he'll give us a firsthand perspective on how a ski area is taking real, tangible steps to address these challenges and create a more sustainable future. This session is not about doom and gloom. It's about understanding what's happening and what can be done. The ski industry is responding with innovative solutions, but the clock is ticking and more work needs to be done. So, it's interesting because in June, the National Skiers Association will celebrate the 25th anniversary of its Sustainable Slopes Environmental Charter. Did you know that, Courtney? 25 years. So sustainability is not new to the industry, but last year, for the first time, a position was created at NSAA of Director of Sustainability. I'm happy to introduce Courtney Labrie, who will lead off our discussion this evening. So Courtney, let's start with you, maybe a little bit about you, your background and experience, and then what is NSAA doing and to address these sustainability challenges.
Yeah, thank you, Dave, and thank you all so much for inviting me to be here today. I'm really excited, to be here to share a little bit more about what NSAA is doing and ski areas across the United States, and then to hear any questions you might have. So with that, I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. Okay, hopefully you all can share this, or you all can see this right now.
We can see the preview screens on the left-hand side too.
Okay, perfect.
There we
How
go.
about good? Okay, great.
Perfect.
So just a little bit about me to get started. I'm Courtney Labrie, the Director of Sustainability at NSAA. And as Dave mentioned, I started back in August 2023. But prior to NSAA, I've been in the sustainability world for over 9 years in a variety of different functions, ranging from the nonprofit world to the private sector. I also have my MBA specializing in corporate sustainability from Colorado State University. Love skiing, and I love being a part of this amazing industry and getting to learn every day what ski areas are doing on the sustainability front. At a high level, my role at NSAA is to manage our different sustainability programs here, which I'll get into a little bit more later, but really to help support ski areas on their sustainability journeys and provide opportunities for learning, collaboration, and resource development across the ski industry, whether that's virtually, maybe it's an online resource, or in person at NSAA's different events that we have across the country throughout the year. So when we talk about why sustainability and why it's important, here are just a few reasons why your ski areas might be interested in pursuing different sustainability initiatives. And I'm curious, if any of these resonate with you all on the call today. Feel free to put it in the chat. Maybe you have a different reason here that's important to you, but I would love to hear more. And a lot of these too, you can see that they also have good business sense. So they're all about environmental stewardship, but they also have positive effects on the businesses. And as Dave mentioned earlier in the introduction, climate change is a threat to the ski industry. Impacts like warmer than normal temperatures and extreme weather events highlight how the ski industry is impacted and will continue to be impacted, and why action here is important. The really great thing, though, is that ski areas across the country are responding with innovative and collaborative efforts to address these challenges. Just looking back on the past year, a couple different examples at a high level. Advocacy played a really critical role as ski areas engaged policymakers and inspired guests to act. Operationally, ski areas also invested in things like cutting-edge snowmaking technologies, climate resilience and mitigation strategies, and participated in initiatives like the Climate Challenge, which saw its highest participation to date, which is awesome. So, as I'm sure you're all aware, many of you, it sounds like being skiers yourselves, ski areas provide unparalleled outdoor recreation experiences to millions of people each year, all year round. And at NSAA, we're committed to improving environmental performance in all aspects of operations and helping ski areas to allow for the continued enjoyment of these wonderful areas by future generations. And at NSAA, we support that through 3 different sustainability pillars. So the first being advocacy, that's raising the collaborative business voice of the ski industry for broad scale regulatory and legislative action. Mitigation, which is reducing emissions and overall footprint. And then resilience, which is working a plan for the future, protecting our people, natural places, and infrastructure from climate risks. So then I just wanted to share a few just high-level sustainability facts. Many of these are from the most recent Kottke survey, which goes out to ski areas across the country. So 96% of the ski areas who were surveyed in the 2023-24 Kottke are making investments in snowmaking energy efficiency. Over 77% of the ski areas surveyed have a clean or renewable electricity goal, and over 1/3 of responding ski areas do have a full-time staff member dedicated to sustainability efforts. So moving on a little bit more from the why to the how do you do some of this stuff. I just wanted to share a few of the different industry-wide efforts and programs that are available to ski areas and that many ski areas are participating in. And so just in case you're all curious after this call and wanted to dig in a little deeper, this is NSAA's website where you can find everything I'm talking about and a lot more information if you want to go deeper. So you just go nsaa.org, the sustainability tab, and then you can start there looking at these different resources. So the first program I want to highlight here is Sustainable Slopes. So as Dave mentioned, we're going on 25 years of this program. It was founded in 2000, and it's a way for ski areas to commit to sustainable practices across their operations. So currently, over 220 ski areas across the United States have signed on to the Sustainable Slopes program, and they demonstrate their commitment to sustainability in 10 different topic areas. And of course, our goal at NSAA would be to have every ski area be a part of Sustainable Slopes. So here you can just see that pledge and those 10 ski area specific topic areas I mentioned. So it's things like energy, waste, water, forest, health, and habitat. So when a ski area endorses Sustainable Slopes, this is what they're pledging to do. And there's also a customer-facing skier sustainability code, and this highlights just some different ways that guests can also commit to action. So both that pledge and this one are available on NSAA's website to be downloaded. There's poster-sized artwork that ski areas can use, and it can just be another way to inspire guests to take action at their resorts. And many resorts are doing a lot of different things in addition to this to inspire guests to take action as well. And if you are looking at those 10 different topic areas and wondering what actions are in each and maybe what your ski area could do, this badge program really provides a deeper dive into that. So ski areas will get that blue endorser badge when they join. But then for those different topic areas mentioned, there's a badge that corresponds to each. So a ski area could earn a badge by completing a specific number of actions within each. They would submit it to NSAA, and then we would review it and award the badge. And I mention this because it can also be a really great resource for ski areas if they're looking for more actions in one area. And don't want to recreate the wheel. A lot of the research NSAA has done, so you can kind of pick and choose where you might want to go here. And last season, 34 topic badges were awarded to ski areas across the country. And the most popular we saw were around education and outreach and waste and recycling management. And so those badges, I want to highlight them because they're a great way to plan sustainable operations, but ski areas can also share them to be guest friendly and to highlight their accomplishments, whether it's on websites, social media, any other places you can think of. And it really highlights the completion of a milestone and the hard work that went into it by a ski area. Additionally, by completing the requirements of the climate challenge, ski areas will earn those 2 double black diamond badges, the climate change action and climate change advocacy badges. So next, I wanted to highlight just a few of the funding opportunities that are available to ski areas through NSAA. And a ski area does need to endorse that Sustainable Slopes pledge to be eligible for these different grant opportunities. So again, applications are open now on NSAA's website until March 21st. And since 2009, a total of over $890,000 in both cash and in-kind funding has been awarded to ski areas. So there are 3 different types of grants. There's a sustainable snowmaking grant, which is sponsored by HKD. There's cash grants, which I know Bogus Basin won one of these a couple years ago. And there's also this year a recycling-focused grant that is sponsored by PepsiCo for recycling-focused projects at ski areas. And again, just highlighting a couple of the winners last year because they're doing some great work. So for the snowmaking grants, Burke Mountain Resort in Vermont, and then Eldora in Colorado both won that. And for the cash grants, Timberline Lodge and Ski Area in Oregon won that for an LED upgrade project. And the Summit at Snoqualmie in Washington won for their building energy efficiency work after some energy audits. They're doing some upgrades around that. And in addition to these funding opportunities, it's always just good to mention that there are other places for funding for sustainability work. One great area to check in is utilities and your local utility. There can be different rebates there around energy audits, LEDs, just different resources there too. So it's always another great place to check. And of course, checking in with state associations is a great place to learn about local opportunities for collaboration as well. And then I wanted to highlight a couple examples of great sustainability work and an area where if you were interested in learning more about sustainability initiatives at ski areas, where you could do that. So that is the Golden Eagle Awards, which are awarded every year. And it was established in 1993, and they're the highest honors bestowed on a ski area for environmental performance. We've updated these in the recent years to reflect different changes in sustainability best practices and really highlight the importance of climate change action and advocacy. So here are the winners just from last year, and you can look on NSAA's website to find more in-depth write-ups of these winners as well as the finalists. So some really great, innovative and inspiring work happening, which is highlighted through those. This next program is all about understanding and reducing a ski area's greenhouse gas emissions, and it's kind of the next step going deeper after sustainable slopes. So that's the Climate Challenge, and it's a voluntary program dedicated to helping participating ski areas inventory, target, and reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. So the 2023-24 season, it marked the 13th year of the Climate Challenge program. And through this program, climate challengers get access to ski area specific support, a public reporting platform, and a lot of resources that help them develop their inventory, set a target, and then reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, as well as different opportunities for advocacy. So last year, there were 52 different climate challengers, and we had 3 new challengers, including Bogus Basin, Smuggler's Notch, and Sun Valley. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but last season we saw our highest number of reporters to date. So you can just really see how the program has grown and continues to grow over time, with ski areas really stepping up here, which is really awesome. And there's a lot of different projects each year that ski areas undertake as part of this program. And all of that can be found in the annual report, which is public on NSAA's website, and a really cool interactive dashboard that if you're curious, you can go in and click around on a lot of different things, learn more, go in detail. But last year, the reduction projects we saw most popular were all around electricity efficiency projects, totaling 28 different projects being accomplished. That was followed by waste reduction and waste tracking. We saw 16 projects on that front. And overall, there were a total of 81 different emissions reduction projects being reported by that group of climate challengers, which was really exciting to see. So if you want to look at those specific projects and learn more, it's all listed in the annual report. So you could go a little deeper there too. And then I just wanted to highlight, if you're unfamiliar with a greenhouse gas inventory, just very basically like what that entails and why you might be interested or your ski area might be interested and participating in the climate challenge. So a greenhouse gas inventory is categorized by 3 different scopes of emissions. That first scope is direct greenhouse gas emissions coming from sources that are controlled or owned by the organization. So that's things like emissions from vehicles, emissions from buildings. It's basically fuel combustion that happens on site. Scope 2 are indirect emissions associated with the purchase of electricity, steam, heat, or cooling. And although those emissions physically occur at the generation facility, they're accounted for in an organization's GHG inventory because they're a result of that organization's energy use. And then scope 3, which you can see on the right here, it's kind of everything else. It's the result of activities from assets not owned or controlled by the reporting organization, but that the organization indirectly affects through its value chain. So you can see some of the big ones for ski areas there. And scope 3 is not included in the climate challenge as mandatory. It's only scope 1 and scope 2 that are required, but there are many ski areas who do report on some aspect of scope 3. The biggest one, which I mentioned earlier, being waste and waste tracking, waste reduction efforts. And why is this important? Why is it important to understand your GHG emissions? A common phrase in the sustainability world is you can't manage what you don't measure. So having that measurement, setting that baseline is really important to understanding what projects you're going to see the most impact in next and kind of where to go from there. And then just to speak a little bit about climate change advocacy, NSAA advocates for climate solutions at the federal level and also coordinates with state associations. NSAA we're a bipartisan organization, a nonpartisan organization. We work with both sides of the aisle on all of these issues. And as part of the climate challenge, ski areas also complete 4 different climate advocacy efforts as well. So here's what we know. When it comes to climate change, we need all the solutions. Dave mentioned this earlier in the introduction, and climate advocacy is a solution along with those, different mitigation efforts, different resilience efforts. We also know that climate change impacts aren't equitable and different areas have different impacts. So it's important to highlight, when you're talking to different policymakers, what impact you're seeing from this, because it is different in different places. And it can't be done by individuals alone. We need both the public, private sector buy-in, as well as legislative and regulatory action. We need that strong climate policy along with those on-the-ground emissions reduction projects. Those 2 things really go hand in hand. So just some thoughts on how to engage if this is something you'd like to pursue. Being bipartisan, we need to work with the people who are in the office now. Focus on the economic impacts. How much revenue does your business bring to the community? How many people, does your company employ? What do you stand to lose, and how are you already being impacted by this? Thinking local. Telling your personal story is making an impact. That personal story is really what is going to resonate with the people you're trying to speak with. And then being specific in your ask. Is it a piece of legislation, an action? What's going to have a positive impact on your business and community? And then highlight what you're doing, highlighting those goals, your commitments, the different actions you're doing, and your willingness to do more in addition to asking for this. So again, I'm not going to read the whole slide, but just some different opportunities here. And these are all actions that ski areas are actively involved in on the advocacy effort. So talking to elected officials, working with state associations, sign-on letters through other collaborative organizations like Ceres, maybe it's We Are All In or Citizens Climate Lobby. NSAA has a lot of priorities as well and resources on our website. So just some of the things that NSAA is focused on right now are around the investments from the Inflation Reduction Act, wildfire preparedness and prevention resources, grid and transmission resiliency, and permit reform. Just a few images here from different ski area advocacy efforts throughout the past year. So things like going to DC and sharing different ski industry priorities with representatives in Washington, different collaborative panels with ski industry experts in sustainability at places like Mountain Town's 2030 Climate Solutions Summit, or with Citizens Climate Lobby, just a couple different examples there. And then I just want to quickly highlight NSAA's Climate Smart Snowmaking Study, because it's a great resource and has a lot of useful information as it relates to snowmaking. So this was an inaugural study published in 2023, and it explores the relationship between climate change and snowmaking. It was conducted with Brendel Group, ski industry experts, and third-party stakeholders. And this is just the definition of climate smart snowmaking. And then the goals of this study, establishing a baseline and benchmark for snowmaking in the US, helping ski areas to understand climate risks and vulnerabilities in snowmaking, and then of course, developing and sharing information, tools, and resources to improve efficiency and reduce impacts. So all of these resources can be found on NSAA's website, available to anybody who wants to check them out. So we have obviously the longer study. You can go really in depth looking at your different region, different climate impacts there. And the whole host of different opportunities and resources around it. But there's also a much shorter primer and FAQ, as well as a fact sheet that just has some of the key takeaways from the study if you kind of just want to read some of the higher level overview. So it's really interesting and a great way to go deeper into this subject. Yeah, if you have interest there. And then just highlighting that NSAA also has an environmental committee made up of ski areas and suppliers located across the country who are dedicated to working on climate change. It focuses on sustainability programs, communication, climate change advocacy. So it's just another way that ski areas are sharing challenges, sharing resources, working with each other to combat this issue and to do everything they can. Any ski area who's a member of NSAA can join, and just another really great collaborative approach to talking about and working on some of these issues. So that is it for me. Just a big thank you for letting me share some of this high-level resources. There's a lot more on NSAA's website, and very open to any questions that you might have.
Courtney, can you stay on until after Nate's presentation for questions?
Yeah, definitely.
I know you had said in the setup of this that you're very interested in his presentation too. So what'd you think of the presentation, everybody? Good? Good ground, and I wanted to point out, even though this position was new in June of 2023, NSAA has always been involved, at least the last 25 years. I didn't want to make the impression like all of a sudden woke up and go, oh, we better do something. And especially the work by Geraldine Link legislatively. And these programs have been going on for a long time. And I'm so glad that now there's the expertise and the recognition that we can do more if we focus our efforts and our energy. So thank you, Courtney. And I did put the NSAA link to their sustainability page in the chat room, so you can click on that. Parts of NSAA.org, you need to be a member in order to access. But I think the sustainability information is pretty much open for people to be able to review and to see. I did also put a chat in there that the directional signage on Mount Hood Meadows parking lot trucks were paid in part by an NSAA grant. Now, why would signage on a parking lot truck be paid for by a sustainable slopes grant? Anybody? Anybody know? Well, the reason is because before we had the grant, or before Meadows had the grant, their trucks would idle to power the signs. So they could be idling for 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours just to tell people that this parking lot was full. But thanks to the Sustainable Slopes Grant, we were able to electrify through batteries those signage and no longer need to idle a vehicle for 8 hours a day just to tell people about what the status of the parking lot was. That's the real impact of having these types of grants. And take a look at that over the last dozen years since Meadows received that grant, and calculate how much that has contributed to reducing the amount of greenhouse gases going into the environment. So, we have a picture of what's happening on the industry level and the support that NSAA is providing. Now, I'm very happy to introduce Nate Collins, the Sustainability and Stewardship Coordinator at Bogus Basin. He's going to give us a firsthand perspective of how a ski area is taking real, tangible steps to address these challenges and create a more sustainable future. So take it away, Nate.
All right. Well, thanks, Dave. And thanks, Courtney. That was a great presentation. I'll share my screen. I got a little presentation as well. I'll try not to get too in the weeds just yet, but let's get this going. Make sure I got the right one.
Yep.
Looks right. All
There you
right.
go. Looking good.
Yeah, once again, I'm Nate. I'm the Sustainability and Stewardship Coordinator for Bogus Basin. I've been in this position more or less for about 2 years, and with Bogus Basin for about 3. Um, and I kind of came into this whole sort of industry of sustainability through a roundabout way. Uh, I got my undergrad in accounting, did 6 years in corporate finance, climbed the ladder, did that sort of deal. Then went back to grad school and just happened to be landing at Bogus Basin at the right time when they were trying to create a sustainability program. So, um, it was just following my passions really, and want to care about the planet and help the organization do the same. So. Those of you who aren't super familiar with Bogus Basin, we are a 501c3 nonprofit mountain recreation area. We're located about 16 miles north of Boise. Um, and so we serve primarily the greater Boise community. Our nonprofit mission is to provide accessible, affordable, and fun year-round mountain recreation and education, and that's really what we do. It's subsidized and scholarship ski lessons. It's our environmental education programs. It's free concert series in the summer. It's all about the community. It's really what it is. So it's a unique position to be in. And it's also unique because we have about 500,000 skier visits a year. So we actually have a pretty good customer base and 2,600 skiable acres. It's a good time. So, um, and also as I'm going through this presentation, please feel free. I usually do these things in person. It's a little bit easier to pop in, but feel free to drop a question in the chat or whatever. So I like to talk a lot about when I'm talking with our community is what's actually happening at Bogus. Like, how is climate change already impacting us? And there's already we have a lot of data. So this information here is from the NRCS. Uh, it's SNOTEL data, and Bogus Basin has one of the oldest SNOTEL sites in the West. So we actually have a pretty good handle on what's been happening. What we've been seeing is in the last 40 years or so, our snowpack season has shrunk by about 21 days. And the snowpack season is basically the number of contiguous days of snow on the ground. And so that's a pretty substantial shift. And for us, that means less days to ski, almost a month less to ski. And that snow is our water in the summer as well. Our water in the Treasure Valley here in Boise, about 75 to 80% of that comes from the snow. So it's super critical that we have these long established snowpacks throughout the season. So we also do some work with Boise State University. They've been studying climate change up at Bogus, and their findings are mirroring just what I told you on that prior slide. We are seeing about 1% more rain per year and 1% less snow. And at that trend line where we're at right now, we're at about a 50-50 rain snow. If that trend line continues, that means in 50 years at the base of Bogus Basin, we may not have natural snow. So that's concerning. That's really what it kind of comes down to. And I don't want to get too doom and gloom on y'all, but yeah. Um, yeah, and all when I look at our historic opening dates, it mirrors all this data as well. We were seeing later and later and later uh, opening dates since the 70s. And um, snowmaking is really what's kind of saving us right now, and I'll dive into that in a little bit too. And I would be remiss without talking about the risk of wildfires. With climate change, we have a lot more drier fuels, more droughts, and it substantially increases our risk. And we actually saw it last year was the first time we've been faced with a major forest fire that was threatening the ski area. So we actually got evacuated. We had a substantial forest fire got started and grew to about 10,000 acres or so in about a day. And yeah, so it's some scary stuff. This was also one of the latest fire seasons we've had. That fire started in October, which is pretty unusual for us. So now that we're done talking about the sad stuff, I'll dive into a little bit more kind of about what we're trying to do about it. So this right here is a little snapshot of our emissions. You can see that big giant green pie. That's our employee and guest travel. That's those scope 3 emissions. It's substantial. It's a really tough one for us to tackle here. The next biggest piece of the pie is going to be our on mountain vehicles. That's all of our snowcats, trucks, side by sides, all that stuff. And then the third largest piece is our propane usage, and propane is what we use to heat every building on the mountain currently. It's one of my biggest goals to kind of try to curb that. So, a snapshot of our emissions, and a little bit dive into kind of what we're doing here. So, everything that we're doing, it kind of stemmed from the formation of our environmental education department, and that started about 20 years ago. And I'll get into a little bit more details about the environmental education department, but that's really what's kind of our bread and butter, and it's formed our base of our action, and really trying to get our community to become stewards of our environment. And since then, we've just kind of expanded it. In the last few years, it's really taken off. So we joined the NSAA Climate Challenge. So 2023 was our first year reporting. And it was great experience, and great to be part of the challenge. And yeah, it's been fantastic. We have invested a lot in snowmaking, beginning in that 2018, 2019 timeframe. Is when we first started investing in snowmaking. We built our snowmaking pond. It's 14 million gallons. We have 50 snow guns already, or actually, as of about January 10th, we had blown about 23 million gallons of water to make snow this year. And looking back at last year was a really rough early season for our region, and it was snowmaking that saved us. It really saved us. The other stuff we're doing, we got recycling. We've partnered with this company called Replenish and this program called Circu to do aluminum cans and plastic bottles on the mountain. They provide all the logistical support. All we have to do is collect it, sort it. They provide us with tracking as to where the recycled materials actually end up. It's been a really wonderful thing. We also recycle internally all of our cardboard. All of our waste oil is converted, and we burn that as heat to heat our truck shop. And we recycle all of our, like last year, we replaced 2 lifts. All that steel got recycled or reused or sold to another ski area to use. So, done a lot of energy efficiency upgrades, LED lighting in all of our lodges and our offices, timers on all of our lights, all that stuff. This year marks, I think, our 5th or 6th year of buying 100% renewable energy from Idaho Power, who is our utility company. Carbon sequestration has kind of been a primary focus for us. We started a program 2 years ago to collect seeds on the mountain, and we partner with the Forest Service nursery, and they actually grow them into seedlings for us, and we plant them the following year. So last year was the first year we've kind of seen the completion of that cycle. Planted about 3,500 plants with some volunteers and our staff, and it's been really cool. We're hoping to plan on kind of tripling that this year. So a lot of cool stuff. We do some sustainability engagement events. We do free gear repair events, trying to encourage our guests to consume less. Household consumption drives about 60% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So help if everyone can just consume a little less, makes a big difference. We have our first solar installation is going up this spring. Our friends at Cleanera, who's a large solar developer, they donated a shipping container full of solar panels. And the first 70 of those are going to go up on our rental shop this spring. And then the remainder, about 140 of those, will be in a second and third phase project. So really cool stuff. We're excited about that. We piloted some renewable diesel last year. Renewable diesel has substantially less emissions than traditional diesel. So we're hoping to kind of adopt that as we work to reduce emissions of our fleet. We've been in the process of electrifying our snowmobile fleet. I think we're up to 5 electric snowmobiles, and we'd like to convert them all. Electric snowmobiles, they cost quite a bit up front, but for example, last year with our fleet of electric snowmobiles, we had about $100 of maintenance, and all of our gas snowmobiles had about $20,000 of maintenance. So the maintenance savings of electric snowmobiles is huge. Our ski patrollers are primarily what use them, and you cannot take it away from them. They love those things. I mentioned earlier about employee and guest travel being a substantial portion of our greenhouse gas emissions. So we have some carpool incentives. We do this challenge. It's called the Carpool to Crush CO2 challenge, and trying to encourage our guests to carpool more. They can win season passes, day tickets, all sorts of prizes to try to gamify this and get people to just put a couple more people in your car as you're headed up the mountain. This year we've had about 230 people have participated in that program, which it's been great. You know, it's great to see people participate and start carpooling. We have a weekend busing program. So on the weekends we run a bus. It's not super regular. It's one of the things that we would love to do, is to have a really regular bus, but it's a very substantial financial investment. And a public-private partnership is difficult because the state of Idaho provides $0 for public transportation. It's something we really love to have. I was going to say, oh, and we also provide transportation for all of our employees with our van pool system. So we partner with the Ada County Highway District, and they have a bunch of vans, and we use those to transport employees to reduce emissions for them. And lastly, I want to talk about our environmental education programs. Like I said, that's kind of the bread and butter and what really all the sustainability stuff came out of. So it's something that we are very proud of. And that all started with 20 years ago. There was this program called Snow School that started right at Bogus Basin. And now it's a nationwide program that's ran in partnership with the Winter Wildlands Alliance. But what we do is we take kids out on the snow. We dig snow pits, teach them about snow science and winter ecology and climate change, and really also to have fun in snow. For a lot of the kids, it's their first time ever seeing snow. It's really cool. So we do about I think about 3,500 kids through that program alone. And then we have summer camps and fall field trips, which we have added. Fall field trips are also, we'll do some data collection and some more sciencey stuff, or they can also be like wilderness survival themed, all just to get our youth engaged with nature. We have some adult programs too. We do free weekend guides with some retired biologists that lead those, and they're tremendous programs. Yeah, lots of really cool stuff. Oop, I did not mean to go that far. And I just wanted to, I was talking about environmental education, and this slide right here kind of gets back to like why, not only like why I am so passionate about climate change and taking climate action, but also our organization. So all these quotes are from students who have come through our program. This is from their pre-survey. So we asked them, you know, what is something like to better understand about climate change. And for so many of them, it's why isn't anyone doing anything about it? You know, that's kind of one of the things that I think is important to recognize is that the next generation, they get it. They already get it, even at fifth grade. Um, and it's on all of us who are currently in power and can make those decisions to take action now. So, um, yeah, that's my main spiel. I don't know if we want to jump into questions or.
So Nate, I put a link in the chat to the bogus Basin sustainability. These comments from the next generation are very impressive. And by the way, Nate, how many people are in your sustainability stewardship department?
So yeah, so the sustainability stewardship side, it's myself full as a full-time year-round staff, and then in the summer I have 3 seasonal staff. We're hoping to add 4th one this year, and an intern. We also have an intern as well. In the winter I have 1 staff and an intern. And then on the environmental education side, we have a full-time year-round environmental education coordinator, and then 4 summer staff and 4 winter staff, and also an intern. So
Wow,
it's grown a lot. It honestly in the last couple of years is when it's really grown.
kudos to you and your leadership team for prioritizing this, because there are a lot of ski areas that don't even have a staff person. But my
Yeah.
experience in the industry is that this is always starting from the employees, the team members up. That's where these programs are rooted. So
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
open up questions now. If anybody has questions, if you
Can
want to
I-
put them in the chat, you
can I
can,
ask-
or just
Oh.
open up your mic. Just direct
Yeah,
whether you
I
want to
just-
talk to Nate or whether you want to talk to Courtney. Courtney.
Okay, I'd like to talk to Kate or Nate first, and Brad spoke at our convention in Boise, our
Mhm.
Far West Ski Association convention in Boise.
Steve, could you speak up a little bit, Steve?
Yeah, maybe I'll move closer to the mic. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Good
Okay.
enough, I think.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Nate, Brad Wilson spoke at our Far West Ski Association convention in Boise in 2023. And we had a panel session in the afternoon, public affairs, and I was very impressed with all the things that Bogus Basin had been doing as a nonprofit ski area.
Mhm.
It's one of the very few nonprofit ski areas. There's one in Oregon in Ashland. It's I think owned by the city of Ashland as a
Mhm.
nonprofit. But I know that a lot of our ski clubs in Far West Ski Association go to Bogus Basin, and I like your outreach to educate.
Yeah.
And how are you involving um, ski club members? Because Far West Ski Association is primarily a ski club organization with many skiers and snowboarders. So how are you involving our members in those kind of educational activities?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't engaged particularly with the Bogus Basin Ski Club or Far West members so much, as we do have we engage a lot with trying to bring our broader community into our stuff. So there's a lot of volunteer opportunities. So in my programs in the summer, it's whether it's putting plants in the ground, the seed collection stuff is largely performed by volunteers, trash cleanups. And in the winter, that program I talked about, Snow School, the winter environmental education program, that's largely been supported by volunteers as well. So for this is a fantastic opportunity for your members to engage. We also provide a season pass to volunteers if you come at least 6 times. So Yeah, so those are probably a couple of the primary ways. We also, or I have volunteers who also help me sort recycling. And there will soon be another volunteer opportunity in the sustainability space that's more guest facing in the lodges. It's in development and we'll be testing it out in a couple weeks. But once that stuff goes live, I'll send that to y'all as well.
Okay, would it be worthwhile for us to reach out to our member club, Bogus Basin, and encourage them to be more active? I assume that they're pretty active already, but
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what I can do is I can I'll send Dave. I have a volunteer sign up form, and that gets you on our list. A lot of these volunteer events end up being on the Bow Basin website anyways, but for the stuff like Snow School and the recycling and some of the more sustainability focused stuff that's in the winter, that will be through our volunteer sign up list. So I can send that to Dave, or I can drop it in the chat probably too.
Awesome.
yeah. Dave and I are pretty close. I live in the north of Portland, Oregon, and I'm
Oh,
a
wow.
past president of Far West Ski Association,
Awesome.
and also VP of Public Affairs for Far West now. I do have a question for Courtney, and my question is, Far West Ski Association has been a associate member, I think, of NSAA for quite some time. We do have access through passwords to get information, and we have advocated and endorsed the Sustainable Slopes program, I think, from the beginning. Would you agree, Randy? And we do publicize the Golden Eagle Awards and your programs through our public affairs program. Much of your presentation had to do with ski area involvement. And my focus in Far West is how do we get club members to be more involved in NSAA activities? And is there a place for them, really?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of, like you mentioned, a lot of NSAA's resources are specifically geared towards ski areas and, how they can get involved, but that's certainly something I can think about more too. And I think, your conversation with Nate on just different volunteer opportunities and going directly to the ski areas and learning what, what they're working on and how the ski club can get involved, like that's a great way to continue to get involved. But in terms of like what NSAA is doing, and how you can get involved there, that's something I could certainly look into a little bit more and just see if there's, other opportunities there. Yeah, that ski clubs could be involved in too.
Okay. You have another question, Alan?
Courtney, it's impressive that you've made $900,000 in grants, I'm assuming to ski areas or efforts. Where did that funding come from? Was that membership gathered funds, or did you get government grants to your organization and then pass it on?
Yeah, so none of it is from government grants, but for example, some of the grants we get sponsored. So the snowmaking grant, which is last year was $60,000 worth of snowmaking equipment awarded overall, was sponsored by HKD Snowmakers. So that's one way we get grant funding, but then for some of the cash grants, that does come directly from NSAA. And yeah, our budget here. So it's kind of a combination, I would say, of sponsorships and NSAA. And yeah, this year we do even have a new grant opportunity funded by PepsiCo for that recycling focused project. So yeah, a couple different avenues there.
In Europe, I was on an FIS committee for recreational skiing years ago, so I'm still involved with them. In Europe, the FIS is working with ski areas one of the metrics they're following is the marginal areas, the lower elevation areas that are closing. Are you keeping track or tracking how our low elevation areas are doing and how many we're losing per year or per decade?
Yeah, so NSAA does track ski area openings and closings. So that is something that we do keep track of year over year and report out on as well. I'm not sure in terms of like lower elevation specifically, if it's, I mean, I'm sure, we could find out based on which ski areas are, if there are ones that are closing or reopening, but it's not specifically tied to like lower elevation versus higher elevation at this point.
I really meant to say marginal snow areas, not elevation, but
Mm.
the ski areas that are on the snow line that didn't used to be, but now they are.
The other data that NSA has from the Cocktail report, if I remember right, is length of season, starting dates, ending dates.
Yeah.
And they, one thing we started noticing up at Mount Hood was maybe it wasn't necessarily the length of season, but a seasonal shift. Seemed like the season was starting later, and then you get into March, April, and you have, a huge snowpack, and by that time, nobody really interested in coming up. Have you seen that there's snowpack building and maybe it's there later in the season than it used to be?
There has been if I look at like our SnowTel data, there is a shift to a little bit later peak snowpack. And then what we usually are seeing as well is a much more precipitous drop off in the melt rate. So yeah, that is definitely a thing. And I think it's important to when you look at a lot of climate change models, warmer temperatures is kind of what a lot of people talk about, but in a lot of models, you're actually seeing more precipitation as a whole. It may not be rain, it may not be snow, it may be rain, but you're often seeing more precipitation. And so that can it could play into some of these things where there is a late March snowstorm that's huge. I know we had one 2 years ago. It was ginormous. We got like 6 feet in a few days. But highly uncommon.
We're a little bit beyond our 7:30 time frame. Courtney, Nate, can we hold on to you for a few more questions? Are you good?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody want to wave a hand if you have a question? Oh, okay. Harry or
I was waving to Courtney.
ah,
However, I did wonder in the slide presentation, Nate, you mentioned carbon and paving and sorry, I don't remember the exact wording. And I took it to be some saving of carbon in your pavement.
I maybe I misspoke. Whatever carbon paving was is not whatever I wanted to say.
No, it's okay. I could be the only one that went that direction.
Carbon storage on roads is what it says. Yeah, so
Okay.
I see what you're
Thank
saying.
you.
So we have perspective. We've been around for 80 years, and most of our operations for that 80-year time frame has been on our private land, not on the national forest land where there has been regulation. So we have had, for probably the first 50 years, lots of old roads that shouldn't have been built were built. And so we're going through the process of converting those all back to this grass and forb type of vegetation to sequester carbon. That's what it was about. Yeah.
Thank
awesome. Anybody have a question? Raise your hand.
Yeah,
There we go.
Dave, this is Randy.
Okay,
I just
Randy.
wanted to
And then
mention-
Monica next.
I'm sorry. There are two names that were mentioned. Geraldine Link, NSA. She was the recipient of the FWSA Jordan Riley Award back in 2007. And Judy Dorsey, who's the principal of the Brendel Group, was the recipient of the Far West Jordan Riley Award in 2013.
Yeah, and
Monica? Yeah,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
after hearing these specific measurements of the amount of snow days and such that is being done at Bogus Basin, and that's great. It makes me wonder, do you know how widespread this is with resorts? If more resorts are doing that, because it makes me want to go up to Mount Rose and ask them if they're keeping track of that, because I have no idea how widespread this practice now is, but I think it's great because it makes it a reality. And unfortunately, there are some people that still don't believe in climate change. And figures like that make it a reality. It's like, yes, it is changing. And so I just wondered if you were aware of other ski resorts that are doing this, or if you collaborated with any other ones to know.
No, I'm certain there are others. Almost positive Bridger Bowl is. My friends up at Brundage Mountain, which is 2.5 hours northwest of Boise. They just last year started looking at all their SNOTEL data to kind of see how climate change is impacting them. Kind of an interesting thing is with climate change, I mentioned, we're getting warmer temperatures, more precipitation. There are likely some ski areas that may be in some ways winners, ski areas that already see very cold temperatures throughout the season, and with the added precipitation, it could be helpful for them, but that's going to be a minority of resorts. But it's an interesting thing to think about. But I'm sure there's SNOTEL sites throughout the West that I'm sure there's one that's close to just about every ski area, and they could definitely find this data.
Thank you.
Monica, one thing from a ski area operator standpoint, when it comes time to finance your next big lift project, you're trying to get financing to last 10, 15, 20 years. Ski areas are in a delicate situation when you talk about the future and then trying to go secure the financing necessary in order to build out the future.
Yeah, don't expect it at the federal level.
Yeah. Any other questions? John, did you have a question? I wasn't sure, or if you, your microphone's out. Nope. Microphone's still off.
I had a question. This is Jane
Go.
Wyckoff for Courtney. Courtney, I know that NSAA does a lot of data on sustainability and progress. Do you interface with international organizations? For example, I'm on a committee with the International Skiing History Association. It's an international snow sports museums association. And I was wondering, on such an important topic as this, if you share data with other countries internationally, compare notes, anything like that?
Yeah, and that's something I would love to do more of too. But yeah, NSAA does collaborate, with international ski areas. For example, our former president, Kelly Pollack, went to Mountain Planet, which was all about collaborating and learning from other ski areas on this issue. So yeah, collaboration does happen. And I think it's only going to become more and more important that we're working with international ski areas as we're all, trying to solve these issues, because there's some really cool projects that I've seen at ski areas in Europe that, I'll learn about, and we can potentially work on those here or share best practices for things. So yeah, I think it's great. The more collaboration, and NSAA will definitely continue to collaborate too. Yeah.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, it's been a number of years, but the National Ski Council Federation had a meeting in Switzerland in, I think, September, maybe 15, 17 years ago. Joe would know, maybe.
Yeah, the last was April 2009.
Okay. And we had a presentation at that meeting about climate change and the urgency of dealing with it because of, you know, the effect on the European ski resorts. Now, I don't think that urgency has been addressed as much as it should have been. And I like the comment from Jane about collaboration with, you know, other parts of the world and ski areas. So I just wanted to comment, how do we, you know, we need to do a better job at collaboration.
I've got a question here.
Yes.
This is a red alarm that nobody has the answer for, but today a United States flag was flown upside down from Glacier Point in Yosemite. And it's because of the, I wouldn't call it defunding, but the firing of employees, Park Service employees there. Virtually every ski area in the nation is on national forest land. And I'm sure, Nate, you can tell us better than I can tell anybody, but dealing with the regional forester and the forester that's assigned to your facility has been critical. You got to fill out all kinds of data to tell them that you're conforming to the criteria. What, Courtney, what is NSAA prepared to do if we have half the number of foresters next week that we had last week?
Yeah, Courtney.
Yeah, Geraldine Link, who I know a couple folks mentioned earlier, is really actively involved with our partners at the Forest Service and working with them because it's it's an urgent issue if that does happen, and I know we're seeing that right now. So yeah, I would say NSAA's government relations team, directed by Geraldine, are actively working on that question that you just posed.
It really gets complicated when you start talking about wildfires too. And the amount of personnel that's going to be needed that right now was considered to be temporary. So it's a scary time for sure. I don't know if there's any more questions.
I could just jump in real quick. Some examples we're already seeing on the Boise National Forest with talking with a forest soup here is right now it's looking like probably no noxious weed staff for the entire forest. Some of those things that a lot of people don't think about. And then when we're talking about like project proposals and NEPA analysis, there's going to be a big shortage. So those are a couple of the biggest concerns for us. And yeah, it's a big thing. It's a big thing. And we've been working with our federal delegation to try to nudge them in the right direction. Really, we've been trying to do that for a couple of years because the Forest Service funding has been low and the forests have been understaffed for decades. So just wanted to lend my 2 cents.
Appreciate that.
As far as the snow in Europe goes, I know it's an FIS issue, and I'm sure Alan can speak to it too, with the number of World Cup cancellations in the early season. These last 3 to 4 years, a lot of European resorts that had scheduled World Cup races early season have been canceled.
It's a major nightmare for them, and now 2 weeks in advance, or some cases 4 weeks, there's a snow advisory that comes out from FIS saying whether the World Cup event, the top one, is going to happen or not, and if it's not, if they can already identify where the makeup race is going to be. It's and if you even just watch the first race of the season, which is on a glacier, that glacier it looks like it's 10% of what it was 20 years ago. They're worried that the glacier is going to be gone. We can't even start that first race in October. It's really amazing. And for World Cup racers, they just need a sheet of ice down the middle. They don't have to have snow in the woods, but even they are having trouble.
Well, we're not going to solve it today. And I think this demonstrates that it's a problem that goes well beyond our local ski areas and the ski areas in this country, the ski areas in Europe. It's a huge problem. And to me, nothing underscores it more than those comments that the young people gave to the snow school program at Bogus Basin. We're fortunate that it's probably not going to affect us too much the rest of our lives. By that, I mean the general membership of the Far West Ski Association. But I'm concerned about my kids and their kids and their kids after that. So, I appreciate everybody that attended here. I did have a question.
I resemble that remark.
So there is a ski area that is completely operating off the grid, thanks to geothermal. What state is that ski area in? Anyone?
Is that Colorado? I don't know where that is.
Nope, not Colorado,
California.
not California. One more guess?
Washington,
Nope.
Wyoming?
Well, it
I
must
put a
be
link in.
Oregon. It's probably Oregon.
It's Alaska.
Oh,
And I think you can go to that link. I think Sam Info has opened up the link to read about a ski area that is completely off of the grid, generating their own electricity, their own power through geothermal and the other sustainable activities that they're doing. And eventually, I think that is a good guidance of where we need to go. I had mentioned that this was the first of a series of programs to talk about this. The next one coming up is going to be at our annual conference in Palm Springs, of all places, on June 14th. We have a special recorded message from Auden Schindler, the Senior Vice President of Sustainability at Aspen One. He's actually moving on from that position, well-known author and environmental activist. I think that's what he would like to see is how do you implement large-scale climate solutions and get the needle moved politically. Dr. Erica Fleischman, she's the director of the Oregon Climate Change Research Institute. And what Nate pointed out as far as what they're witnessing with their snowpack up at Bogus, a study that just came out, the 7th annual climate study for Oregon, is forecasting that by the year 2100, there will be 50% less snowfall in the state of Oregon than there is right now. 50% less by the end of this century. She'll be one of our speakers, but Curtis Shuck will also be one of our speakers. He's the founder and chairman of the Well Done Foundation. And they go and they find abandoned, orphaned oil and gas wells. They fix them, they plug them, and they prevent them from leaking methane and contaminating groundwater. So there are things that we can do now that can change the direction that a warming planet is going. So we'll be talking about that panel. There'll be some other panelists too, but that's coming up at the annual convention in Palm Springs, June 12th through 15th. And I hope everybody here is able to attend and that maybe there'll be some additional people that want to come just for that. Nate, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about what Bogus Basin has done. I encourage every single ski club that goes to Bogus Basin to demand a behind the scenes tour of those sustainability practices. I'm sure it'd be well worth the time, and my fingers crossed, Nate, I think would be happy to show off because it's fun.
Anytime.
And Courtney, thank you. And we've always known that speaking from someone who worked at ski areas for over 30 years, just up here in the Northwest, the guidance that NSA has provided, the leadership, and then the actual materials and the excitement that Heidi LaGroche got when she won a sustainability award, and how motivating that is, to drive home, the messaging and get this stuff done is commendable. So thank you for your leadership, and thank everybody for attending. And again, our next session will be coming up at the annual meeting in June.